I like what Susan Price just did. She lifted up the curtain so we could look farther than this room as to where we're headed, right? So where are we headed? Anybody have any ideas after hearing all these wonderful presentations and thinking about the research? Where are we headed? What's next? And once we accomplish that, what's after that? And so on and so forth. So I think our immediate needs are pretty clear. We need to take what we now know works and spread it. So one of the things we need to do is take a look at how we move swimmer's itch control beyond the pilot 5 lakes into other lakes that may want to have the same kind of success that the 5 lakes have had. And our immediate need right now and what looks forward in the next year is that we need to expand our relocation sites. And we need to find more of them. We need to be certified sites. These are sites where we want to make sure that we're not taking swimmer's itch and spreading it around. I personally swim on Sleeping Bear Bay a lot. My favorite place to swim. I don't want swimmer's itch in Sleeping Bear Bay. I don't want it in Taos. I don't want it anywhere else. And we need to break the life cycle and make sure that our birds that we're relocating are not spreading swimmer's itch. So that's number one vision that I think we should be looking forward to, is doing our control programs on our inland lakes and not spreading it anywhere else. That would not be moral and would not be the right path to take. The other thing we need to do in the immediate future, and it's in the works, and Barb Avers is going to talk about it soon, is we need a permit that allows us to separate what used to be scientifically based research that included control to now moving to a control-only permit. So the outlines of that will be unveiled at some point in the future. And I think Barb's going to be speaking about that in highlight and outline form. But we need to have that as our path moving forward. Otherwise, we're back to the old days of spending huge amounts of money, having restrictions, and having research components. We already know how to control swimmer's itch. Not on every single lake, but most lakes. And I think we have a pathway to those lakes that have different life cycles. So we need to move into a new era where we have a merganser control permit that's given to us by the DNR that allows people who want to be trained to do the work to go forward and do the work. We've already stepped into that already. Glen Lake has now got 2 merganser control technicians. And their goal is to get really good at learning and perfecting what they did all summer long this past summer. They were involved on 3 lakes, Glen, Lake Leelanau, and Line. And they spent all their time with one of the masters of trapping, Ron Ryman. And they went to every single brood. If you take a look at all the broods on 3 lakes, Line, Glen, and Lake Leelanau, and add them up, those trainees were part of every single capture and relocation. So if you do the math, they were involved in a lot of brood capturing. They've got it, they figured it out, they've done it, and now they're ready to serve the Leelanau County lakes. What does that entail? Well, what does the future look like when we start getting more trainees down the road? Because we're going to need more. Because I'm telling you right now, 2 of those guys can't service the whole state, right? So you lake associations have to come forward with your best trainee prospects, get them in front of a trainer, and get the kind of techniques and knowledge that you have to do it right and do it responsibly. And move forward so that now we have merganser control programs, not just on the pilot lakes, but we have it on all the lakes that need it and want it. And when I say that intentionally. Need it and want it. Because some lakes may say, well, we want it, but you may not need it. So what does the future hold? The future holds that we must have some kind of eligibility requirements for a lake to be able to say, yes, you have a problem, and yes, we have the trainees to move these whatever birds are off the lake and get you under a control program that works. So what does that take? Well, that takes time and energy. I mean, Glen Lake Association already put the bill, paid for these two guys to spend their summers learning how to do it. So that's one of the costs that maybe MISIP can help cover in the future. We don't know. But one thing is true, you got to be able to put these guys in front of these trappers and gals, whoever it might be, and get them to know how to do it right, to do it responsibly. And here's the other thing. Once they're trained and they're out there, do they work as an employee of an association? And we pay them by the hour? Or does an association look for some private entrepreneurs that come forward and say, I'm in the business to do this? To be quite frank, it's not a very good business plan. Number one, the work's hard. Number two, you got to get trained and spend time. And number three, as you begin to trap and relocate birds on a lake, the number of broods go down. So you're having to get in front of these lake associations as an entrepreneur and say, ready to do business with you, and they say, we're pretty good. We don't have any broods this year, or we only are down to 1 or 2 when we used to have 5 or 6. So the money's not there. I think Glen Lake Association, we haven't confirmed this, we haven't put it in practice yet, but we're thinking we want to have a couple employees, pay them by the hour, go out and do the good work, be responsible, and then farm them out to other lakes who want to pay for that service. We'll kind of share our employees and work on that kind of a basis. Maybe we'll, I know that the 2 guys we just trained do not want to become business people. They don't want to be entrepreneurs and carry the extra load of the liability insurance and the equipment needs and so on. So those sort of things have to unfold, and they'll unfold in probably a variety of ways, depending on how you as an association want to work. The other thing that we see in the future is we're going to come up with some kind of quota system. Quotas mean that the DNR is not going to let you trap just as many ducks as you want of any kind and in any numbers. We see from these reports that it's important to get every single last bird off the lake, right? Any bird that you leave behind, especially a hatchier bird, is going to cause infection on your lake. This year, fortunately, we had a quota big enough for all 5 lakes that every lake was allowed to, within the quota, take every single chick and hen off the lake. What if the quota is such that as the number of lakes join in, that the quota isn't the right size? Are we going to leave mergansers or mallards or whatever they might be on the lake because we have to hit a ceiling and you can't go over it? We have to work those details out. I can understand why it can't be unlimited. And at the same time, for the purposes of science and the way the life cycle works, you can't leave birds on the lake or you're going to undo a lot of the efforts of what you're trying to do. So those things need to be worked out. I'm confident that they will. So far they have. The other thing we got to worry about is the public perception. Looking forward, and as we move these birds around, somebody somewhere might say, what are you doing with these dirty birds? You're putting these birds on my shoreline? So one of the things we need to do is be very, very careful about where we relocate these birds. So a lot of time and energy and research needs to go into finding new relocation sites. Where are they going to be? You might say, well, I don't want them in my backyard. So where are they going to be? We got to expand those. That's one of the immediate needs we have. Get in front of these relocation sites before we relocate them. Check them out. Well, what are we going to check? We're going to check to make sure it's state land. We don't have any problems with mergansers surviving. We don't have any problems with this being a swim area. It doesn't look like a very big swim area to me, and so you kind of say, well, there's other swim areas, let's use this as a site. And then lastly, we got to make sure that the target snail is not there. Or maybe we do some qPCR work at some point where we find out that maybe swimmer's itch is already there. And to add more ducks to an already infected lake or river outlet or whatever, and maybe that's not as much of a problem because it's not much of a swim area. I mean, if we found swimmer's itch in the Manistee Swamp, nobody swims there, but if the swimmer's itch is there and we take infected birds and add to the infection, is there any problem with that? I don't know. We have to work out those details. The other thing that the future holds is that we need to get off from this dependence on the state and these appropriation dollars. Right? We can't expect another $250 to come in for the next 5-6 years. And are the costs going to go down? Well, we hope that they will, but to the extent that we don't need more money. So what are we going to need to do? We're going to need to find private sources of funding. We got a list of 12 research projects in front of the Scientific Review Committee. And they're all valuable. They're all good. They may have some timing issues. Some are better to do sooner than later, but they're all good. And they would only add to what we're going to do if we come back here next year and hear about what happened in the summer of 2018. But we don't have $400,000 to spend. We got $30,000 out of this year's budget, next year's budget, to pay for some research. That's not much. So which lake associations are going to look at the list of what did not get funded and say, this is our contribution to the whole of what's going to be learned? Like you heard from Randy and from Ron, there are some things that are on the cusp moving forward that could really reduce costs, improve efficiency, and make the metric for which we measure that much more accurate. Because once we have those things in place, we can go to donors and say, this is what we're talking about here, folks. This is not a rinky-dink show. This is what we can do. This is what we've proven we can do and have done and will do. So for an example, these creams. What about the creams? I mean, if everybody could get a hold of a 8-ounce tube that if you went and put it on and you went swimming in an itch-infested water, you didn't get itch, what a great tool that would be. We could forget about the mergansers, the snails, the worm counters. All that doesn't make any difference. The onus in the future may be on the individual. Another thing that we could think about is the onus is on the riparian. If Ron's project of getting these hot spots and these baffles set up and you got an itch-free swim zone, you could never really then from that point forward complain about swimmer's itch. Why? Because people would complain and say, we got swimmer's itch, it's really bad right here. My grandkids got it right here. Well, get your baffle system doing and put your worm smasher in there and get going. So put on your creams. Get your baffle system going. And education, that should be a part of MSRB. I know how to control swimmer's itch for Rob Karner. You know how I do it? I swim in an itch-infested lake, Glen Lake. I swim all the time. I've been living there for 40 years, and I swim there. I now know, took a while, I now know how to swim in that lake and never get swimmer's itch. How do I do it? I swim deep, or I go swim in Sleeping Bear Bay on Lake Michigan. Haven't had itch for a long time. So you know what? We have to put these tools together. Education, maybe it's creams, maybe it's an itch-free swim zone that you create for yourself. Maybe it's a case where we pull all the mergansers off the lake and reduce swimmer's itch. But one thing we know in the future, one thing we know is we will never eradicate completely swimmer's itch. It will always be here. And if we let it go, it will creep back. We've seen that on Glen Lake. If you quit doing things about swimmer's itch on Glen Lake, over the years, it will come back. Man, did it happen on our lake. We went for 6 years trapping and relocating mergansers year after year after year, 6 years in a row, 2004 to 2009. We had swimmers itch down to minuscule amounts. Everybody was happy. You say, well, what happened? Well, we didn't have any more permits. We didn't have a merganser control permit, right? So mergansers started to come back, and they came back strong in the last 2 years. 2015, 2016, we saw almost exponential growth in mergansers and the numbers on our lake. And so we start trapping them. So what's in the future? We may find out that if you trap and relocate successfully and consistently for 3 years in a row, you might be able to take year number 4 off. Give your budget a break. Or year 5 off, and then come back and hit it again. We don't know, but we will start to know when we start doing this statewide. And the other thing, we got to get all these lakes that are becoming eligible and have trainees that have been trained to do merganser. We got to get some kind of metric that's behind all of that that keeps proving to these donors that we're making progress. We have to. And we got a QPCR program and a protocol that came online this summer in Glen Lake for 2017. And it's a great protocol. We're going to build on that. But what's the correlation between that and the number of broods, how many swimmers itch cases? How can we tweak that protocol to make it better? That's what we're going to be working on hard in the future. And we'll have some numbers now. We know that a 2% infection rate from snail infections, that means you've got a pretty bad swimmer's itch problem. But we don't know what these qPCR numbers mean, and we won't until we run them year after year after year, until we get a feel for what the gauge is, right? How long have we been doing worm counting, Ron? 2 years, that's not very long when you think of the swimmer's itch, right? Swimmer's itch has been going on in the research and the control for almost 40 years. We know what snail infection rates are, but that didn't come overnight. So we're going to have to keep running these qPCR sampling protocols. And we're going to have to keep tracking, and we're going to have to pay attention to the numbers. So that when we look at numbers now, we know what they mean. I swim in Lake Michigan. It was 67 degrees yesterday. Somebody says, that's cold. I said, not as cold as it is in January. Everything's relative. And remember, I always say this, and you'll get tired of me saying this, we don't have swimmer's itch problems for most of the year, right? Who gets swimmer's itch in, December to January? It's a whole month that you're going to have swimmer's itch. Okay, any questions, comments? Yes?
I know you considered a lot of variables, but the one, and I'm not expecting an answer, there's got to be a saturation point where you've got no place to relocate infested birds. Have you thought about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
This fall, spring, we want to expand the number of relocation sites by at least 4 more, ideally. So then when we take the 2 that we have, we'll have 6. And we want to do that again in the subsequent year and maybe the year after, so that we get a battery of relocation sites that number maybe 9, 10, 11, 12, so that when we relocate, we don't keep using the same site over and over, and we spread these birds around. I think that's the right ecological thing to do. What are these mergansers doing when we let them go? They're catching what? Minnows. And who's out there depending on that minnow population?
Fishermen.
How come I'm not catching any fish? Where'd all those minnows go? Those damn mergansers. We can get in trouble ecologically by keep putting top predators overloaded. I mean, you wouldn't put 25, 30 wolves in Leelanau County and let them go. That's too many predators. You might put 2 or 3 in and it wouldn't be a big deal. Deer hunters are going to complain if too many wolves are in Leelanau County. Does that make sense? Any other questions? Yes, Jeff?
In relation to that question, if we get 30, 35 lakes going, relocating birds, you're going to run out of spots real fast.
Oh, I don't think we're going to bring these lakes on real fast. Maybe Barb will talk about this, but I see the best plan moving forward is to walk before we run. So as these eligibility requirements become in concrete and part of the permit process, and we bring these lakes on slowly, we can start to think about how does this affect our relocation sites. You're right, we couldn't run out of sites if I mean, what do we got, 10,000 lakes in Michigan? If they all had swimmers this, we had to have all these sites, we wouldn't be able to do it.
There's in them in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
With these cranes, does anybody have any concern? I do. I don't like to put them on because I feel like if I swim a long time, I'm polluting the water with whatever's on my skin. Isn't that a concern?
It is, yeah. I mean, the chemicals that they talk about are what, analogous or the same thing as DEET. Wayne, you want to say that? Does it pollute the water?
Well, if you put on sunscreen before you go in. Most people use sunscreen, and at least the compound I work with is a sunscreen. There are compounds that contain DEET out there, mosquito repellent. I've not seen any studies with regard to pollution of the water after swimming. I'm trying to make mine at least hypersensitive for sensitive skin, and to the extent that I have no idea.
I swim in the Caribbean. I used to go to British Virgin Islands with kids, and we went there for 12 years in a row. And the big thing down there is don't swim with a lot of sunscreen on it. It's affecting the coral reefs, right? I don't know to what extent what we put on and swim in our inland lakes affects the water quality, but I'm sure it has some, maybe minimal. We don't know the answer to that. And you never want to kind of play with that Russian roulette game of everybody swimming wears